In the Array of Stalks Sutra, there is the story of Sudhana, who is a young man who has a deep aspiration to learn the practices of the Bodhisattvas. And he goes from one teacher to the next for 53 teachers, each one teaching him one aspect of the Bodhisattva practice, and then saying, "This is all I have, go to the next." And in the Foundation of Buddhist Practice, under the, I think, 3 chapters that are there on how to rely on a spiritual mentor, there's various quotes from this beautiful sutra that just inspire me a lot. And at the very end of this sutra is one of my favorite prayers, the King of Prayers, or the Prayer of Good Conduct, where in the last chapter for teaching number 53, Sudhana meets Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, and then he proclaims this King of Prayers as a teaching. And so, yeah, there's this one particular section that's quoted in Foundation of Buddhist Practice that I've often thought, wow, how amazing that would be to come with that attitude to a teaching or to upon seeing a spiritual guide. And this is as Sudhana approaches Avalokiteshvara, his 27th spiritual mentor. So the sutra reads, "Transported with joy on seeing Avalokiteshvara, his eyes fixed on him, his mind undistracted, full of the energy of faith in the spiritual mentor, thinking of seeing spiritual mentors as at once seeing Buddhas, thinking of the reception of multitudes of old truths as originating in spiritual mentors, thinking that the attainment of all virtues are deriving from spiritual mentors, thinking of how hard it is to meet spiritual mentors, thinking of spiritual mentors as the source from which the jewels of knowledge of the 10 powers are obtained, thinking of spiritual mentors as a source of vision of inexhaustible knowledge, thinking that the growth of sprouts of goodness depends on spiritual mentors, thinking that the door of omniscience is revealed by spiritual mentors, thinking that the way to enter the ocean of great knowledge is pointed out by spiritual mentors, and thinking that the accumulation of the store of omniscience is fostered by spiritual mentors. With these thoughts, Sudhana approached Avalokiteshvara. And I just find it stunning. And yet this is not the attitude that I often find in my own mind. And it's amazing that this relationship where our spiritual mentors are the ones revealing to us the teachings of the Buddha, our amazing potential to become Buddhas ourselves, support us, encourage us, show us how to do it, which involves obviously showing us our faults and all the stumbling blocks that get in the way. But this amazing relationship, I found, can often be a source of great pain and confusion and all the junk coming up. And in 2 conversations recently, both Venerable Tarpa and Venerable Children pointed out that it's in relation to our spiritual mentors, it's kind of like the test ground for how we're going to develop a relationship for all other sentient beings, where we learn the great respect, the reverence, the seeing good qualities first with them, and then we can generalize that out. So then, of course, in this highly potent relationship, all sorts of stuff is going to come up. And so as I was sitting on the cushion reciting Namo Gurubhaya, and I had this determination, like, I want to figure out what's at least some of the causes of the source of my confusion and pain in relation to this, in this relationship. And as I was reading this section by Sudhana, my own version was coming to mind. And so if Lamsel was approaching the spiritual mentor, this is more what it would be like. Transported with anxiety upon seeing the spiritual mentor, eyes fixed on them, mind overwhelmed by self-consciousness, full of anticipation for something. Thinking of seeing spiritual mentors as at once seeing the giver of punishment and reward. Thinking that one's self-worth depends on the amount of time the spiritual mentor spends talking with you. Thinking of how hard it is to get the spiritual mentor's attention when there are so many other students. Though when I get the attention, it's often pointing out what I've forgotten or what I've done wrong. Thinking that I must hide all faults so that it looks like I've got it all together. Because obviously if I don't, I'm not practicing what they've taught. coming with an attitude of what can you give to me as opposed to how can I serve you. Not understanding that the teacher's bodhicitta motivation encompasses more than just this one sentient being. And thus, often feeling more confused and regretful after interactions with the teacher, Lamsel has approached her spiritual guides. So, thankfully, it's not always like that. But at the height of affliction, it's often like that. And so trying to figure out why, I identified at least two things that drive the mess. And one is, thinking that I have to have it all together already. And of course that's insane, because what would be the point of the relationship if I have nothing to learn? I wouldn't need to be guided. And yet there's this arrogance, this discomfort with humility, there's this deeply entrenched idea that faults mean that something is wrong with me, or that there'll be a cause to be rejected, derided, ridiculed, cast aside. So I can't mess up. And yet, of course, I see myself continually messing up. And so then there's so much fear that comes there. And it's, the qualities of a student that are outlined, Ariyadeva's 3 qualities of a student don't list having it all together, knowing everything already. It's being impartial and open-minded, actually being able to receive what the teacher is trying to teach you. It's having intelligence, again, not knowing everything, but having this mind that's wanting to investigate to see what should be adopted and abandoned. It's being interested, which in the context of thinking about this, it's like, wow, I need to be interested and get my own junk out of the way about the faults and trying to learn what's actually being taught. Because if I'm wrapped up with myself, I can't receive anything. And interestingly, when I've approached my teachers with a problem or a blockage, or even confessing something that I've done wrong and I want to clear that up and go in a good direction, I've only been met with kindness. And so then why this fear? I mean, the kindness can sometimes involve clear direction about, don't do that again, think this way. But that is received very happily because I want to change. And also with a lot of understanding. And I think that's what's really grabbed my attention, is the understanding that I've been held with when I've come forward with, whoops. It's like, well, of course. What do you expect as an ordinary sentient being who hasn't realized emptiness? Your afflictions are going to arise strongly, and they're going to push you to do things that you don't really want to do. But then we learn. And then the second thing that makes my mind warped is coming with an attitude of, what can you give to me, as opposed to how can I serve? And this is a very worldly, transactional mind that, very habituated to outside the spiritual sphere, but that just isn't appropriate in this relationship. And I think it comes from a deep need for external validation. Tell me I'm okay. But that's not what this relationship is about. And kind of thinking also about the enemy of the 8 worldly concerns. If I'm kind of hooked into wanting either praise or a good reputation in relation to any study, practice, service that I do in relationship to the teacher, then the goal is lost. I'm wanting something as opposed to really trying to practice. And the bigger vision of what the teacher's motivation is and their goal is also being lost in terms of a bodhicitta motivation that's trying to benefit all sentient beings. And what comes to mind is the story that Venerable Chödrön often tells about seeing, I think, Dzong Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe looking at each other, talking, and saying that they could tell that they were student and disciple because of the bodhicitta that was connecting them. And that's how to rely on a spiritual mentor, is that shared motivation that they had, that she saw expressed in this moment. And so if I'm only wanting praise or good reputation or to not mess up, then wrapped around myself, then the whole purpose of this a student-disciple relationship in the context of working towards awakening, this person trying to lead me to awakening, is lost. How sad. And in terms of also the teacher wanting to serve sentient beings, it's often being said like these great teachers are only able to have their great, vast deeds because they have many, many disciples who are willing to give their intelligence, their time, their money, their resources to help do these projects. And that can only be done skillfully with a good outcome if there really is a bodhicitta altruistic motivation there. So I found a lot of inspiration from Sudhana's journey, which you can read on the 84,000, has a brilliant translation of the 53 chapters of his story. And I thought just to end on a few inspiring verses from Sudhana's journey to meet the merchant Muktaka after 12 years of trying to find him. When he saw him, he bowed his entire body onto the ground in homage and sat before him. With palms together, he said, "Arya, today I have succeeded well. Why is that? Because I have met the spiritual mentor. It is rare to have the opportunity to see spiritual mentors. It is rare to have the opportunity to find their appearance. It is rare to have the opportunity to arrive where they are. It is rare to have the opportunity to go where they are. It is rare to have the opportunity to serve them. It is rare to have the opportunity to approach them. It is rare to have the opportunity to dwell with them. It is rare to have the opportunity to train with them. And it is rare to have the opportunity to follow the spiritual guide. Today I have succeeded in being with the spiritual mentor. Arya, I have developed the aspiration for the highest complete enlightenment in order to serve all Buddhas, to venerate all the Buddhas, to see all the Buddhas, to perceive all the Buddhas, to comprehend the equality of all the Buddhas, to comprehend the prayers of the Buddhas, to fulfill the prayers of the Buddhas, to have the light of the wisdom accomplished by the Buddhas, to accomplish all the Buddhas in my own body, to accomplish the knowledge of all the Buddhas in my own conduct, to have the direct perception of the miracles of all the Buddhas, to purify the strengths and fearlessnesses of the Buddhas, to never have enough of hearing the Dharma that is taught by the Buddhas, to hear and adopt the Dharma that is taught by all the Buddhas, to truly hold the Dharma that is taught by all the Buddhas, to become the same as all the Bodhisattvas, to be included among the Bodhisattvas, to purify the conduct of all the Bodhisattvas, and to fulfill the perfections of the Bodhisattvas. So with these thoughts, may we all approach, serve, and emulate our spiritual mentors.